360 security breach. What security breach? The president and his national security team aggressively downplay sending critical military strike plans to a journalist. And vital cancer research in jeopardy after deep funding cuts to a Pentagon program that focuses on cures for some of the most deadly cancers. Also tonight, we'll take you inside a Southern California crime ring and their elaborate scheme targeting surfers, how the accused criminals were finally taken down. Good evening. We begin tonight with breaking news and a breach of national security by the Trump administration that's stunning, and reaction to it by the president and his top advisors that's shocking but not surprising. The president's seemingly cavalier attitude towards the use of a commercial communication platform, Signal, to discuss highly confidential military and political discussions, and his publicly cavalier attitude about his national security officials accidentally including a reporter, Jeffrey Goldberg of The Atlantic, on the group chat. It's not surprising because it follows a very well-worn playbook by President Trump: downplay, disparage, and deny. First, the downplay.
The main thing was nothing happened. The attack was totally successful. It was, I guess, from what I understand, took place during, and it wasn't classified information. So this was not classified.
The president saying this took place during the attack. Goldberg reports that Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense and former Weekend Fox News host, posted the war plan about 2 hours before the attack began on Houthi targets in Yemen. According to Goldberg, the post included Operate Seth, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Tulsi Gabbard, John Ratcliffe, the CIA director, the White House's Stephen Miller, no one. The highest echelons of our nation's government, short of President Trump himself. Downplay, disparage, and deny. The president's comments followed a contentious hearing on Capitol Hill where other members of that Signal chat group were grilled by senators on the Select Committee on Intelligence. Ranking Democrat Senator Mark Warner tried to pin down Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard on if classified information had been shared. Here's how that went.
Senator, I don't want to get into the specifics.
Ma'am, were you on? You're not going to be willing to address it. So you're not, are you denying? Ma'am, will you answer my question, ma'am? You were not TG on this group chat?
I'm not going to get into the specifics.
So you refuse to acknowledge whether you were on this group chat?
Senator, I'm not going to get into the specifics.
Why are you going to get into the specifics? Is it because it's all classified?
Because this is currently under review by the National Security
Because
Council.
it's all classified? If it's not classified, share the text now.
Senator Angus King also questioned DNI Gabbard and CIA Director John Ratcliffe about classified material.
So,
And I
so the
defer-
attack sequencing and timing and weapons and targets, you don't consider to should have been classified?
I
or
defer
were
to the
classified?
Secretary of Defense, the National Security Council on that question.
The Secretary of Defense is the original classification authority for determining whether something's classified or not. And as I've understood from media reports, the Secretary of Defense has said the information was not classified.
It's the CIA Director and the Director of National Intelligence saying it was Hegseth's call. Late tonight, Mike Waltz, the National Security Advisor, he's over on Fox News disparaging Jeffrey Goldberg yet again.
You know, Laura, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but of all the people out there, somehow this guy who has lied about the president, who has lied to Gold Star families, lied to their attorneys, and gone to Russia hoax, gone to just all kinds of links to lie and smear the president of the United States, and he's the one that somehow gets on somebody's contact and then gets sucked into this group. It's embarrassing,
Right.
yes. We're going to get to the bottom of it. I just talked to Elon on the way here. We've got the best technical minds looking at how this happened, but I can tell you for 100%, I don't know this guy. I know him by his horrible reputation, and he really is a bottom scum of journalists. And I know him in the sense that he hates the president, but I don't text him. He wasn't on my phone, and we're going to figure out how this happened.
Chief White House correspondent Caitlin Collins joins me. Her show, The Source, starts at the top of the next hour. So you spoke with Goldberg last night, Caitlin. The president said nothing was classified. I mean, if that's true, Goldberg could just release the text exchange. Any cracks yet of the White House in this downplay, denigrate, deny strategy?
Well, I mean, Mike Waltz tonight was arguing two things, saying essentially, one, that he takes full responsibility for adding Jeffrey Goldberg to this message, but then also implying that somehow Jeffrey Goldberg was added in a nefarious way to this message that was not his doing. And so it's not totally clear on that. But what is clear is this defensive strategy coming out of the White House, where the president scheduled this event at the White House today. It was not initially on the schedule, the public schedule, at least. Those were his ambassadors to be, who were also around the table earlier. But it's
5 hours waits and private information is at risk. All of that's going on, and they think Elon could just fix it. No, this is an example of incompetency. It is an example of putting people involved in national security at risk, with targets being revealed, with identities being revealed. And right now, I still cannot believe they said this wasn't classified, but they said that under oath.
Yeah, I mean, if Jeffrey Goldberg releases it and it turns out to be classified, I'm not sure what happens then. Do you think anyone is going to lose their job over this?
I have no idea, but someone should lose their job over this, because we can't have national security. I will tell you, today we had a briefing on Arctic affairs with Senator Lisa Murkowski, who's a good friend. She held this in a classified briefing room on the Arctic Council. A number of people were briefing us. We put our phones in a locked box. We put our watches, Fitbits, in a locked box, and everyone else did the same thing. These are security procedures that are commonplace for those that work at the State Department, Defense Department. They're well aware that there are classified video ways that you can do any kind of a video teleconference or the like. But they didn't use any of this. They're just off on their signal line like you are. Granted, it's better than just being on the regular, but they're out like you are with a bunch of friends wishing them a happy birthday. This is not what you do with our national security secrets.
Pretty much everybody, or many of the people in that chat group, I mean, there's video of them, there's text messages, there's tweets of them from years past attacking other administrations for their handling or alleged handling of classified information or national security issues. I mean, the hypocrisy here is, not surprising.
They're going after Hillary Clinton for years about this, and then you have the defense secretary, you have the intelligence director, you have all these people on this call, and I was so glad Mark Warner and a number of the other senators stood up and said, wait a minute, are you doing this? And this is what I want to know, actually, Anderson. How many other things have they disclosed this way? How many other things have they put out there? That's why I'm glad that Senator Wicker, I believe, is going to have hearing the Armed Services Committee. A number of the Republicans have said they're troubled by this. I think John Cornyn said this was a huge screw up. So you are starting to see a pushback on both sides of the aisle. So in addition to the investigation that must take place in the normal course of things with people that I'm not sure I trust to do this investigation anymore, we have to have further hearings in the U.S. Senate.
Senator Amy Klobuchar, thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Great to be on. Thank you.
Joined now by Rahm Emanuel, who is President Obama's first chief of staff. He's also former U.S. ambassador to Japan and served as mayor of Chicago. Ambassador, if this was in the Obama White House when you were chief of staff, I mean, first of all, we know what the Republicans.
You don't even have to finish the question, but this would roll. I mean, let's take two examples. One, what if you were doing this during the Osama bin Laden operation? On open signal, secret military operation, you're putting the men and women at risk. You have the Houthis are firing missiles. What, you think that's how that planning was? No, it's in the Situation Room for a reason. Second, when we used to evaluate taking action on high-value targets, terrorists, we'd have a review. Then we sit down with the president. We weigh the plus and minuses. It would mainly happen in Situation Room. Document was prepared by National Security. People got a chance to weigh it in person or written. The idea that just take any other military operation, you have a drone, manned, unmanned, you have an operation, the Osama bin Laden. The idea that you would be doing this on a group chat where you're putting men and women on a military operation, that is never would happen. Number two, and this to me is quite revealing. There's a lot of different angles on this. Anderson, but the one that is they call the Europeans pathetic. And they say they're going to have to pay for this. Well, right now, the Brits, the Canadians, that would be the 51st state, the Danes, the Aussies, the New Zealand, the Dutch, and Bahrain are all participating in operations since January. Not this one, helping us.
They've been working.
Yes. The people that are pathetic, there's never been a Chinese ship, a Russian ship, a Belarusian ship, or a North Korean ship hit. Coincidence? I think not. So the idea is who you're calling pathetic are actually standing there working with us, coordinating with us, intel and operations. And those that are freeloaders, not the Europeans, are the Russians, the Chinese, the Belarusians, and the North Koreans that all work with Khomeini.
It's also interesting to hear them talking about how do you extract a price from the Europeans for.
They are paying a price. They're right there off the shore of Yemen with us. That is what's crazy about this. This actually, to me, captures what is so strategically sloppy about this administration. That's one piece of it, is that our allies are actually there with us. Our adversaries are the freeloaders, and they call our allies the freeloaders. It's upside down. It's totally inverted. The second is, and I just use this, many times, like take the Osama bin Laden case or other cases. In the end of the day, the President of the United States doesn't really have all the information. It's judgment. So think back about this. He fires C.K. Brown, the head of the Joint Chiefs, a 4-star, who has a spotless record. We fired the CNO of the Navy, Lisa Franchetti, spotless record, who has run a strike group. You got Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, who has a drinking problem, whose only thing that he's ever done is Fox, and he's on this. And yet those people who've served in uniform and have got spotless records and worked their way up through every operation, they get fired by the president. And this person gets hired, and Waltz gets hired. The President of the United States. So everybody wants to talk about, I'm sorry, it's his judgment. And then to the senators who confirmed them, those timid souls, as Teddy Roosevelt said, they own this. They confirmed them. They can sit there and do all the hearings they want. They knew this. Every one of those senators know that this would not have been their nomination. They don't get a pass on this to try to clean up and airbrush out the fault that they voted for people that they know in the privacy of their room were never qualified for these jobs.
It's also Hegseth on these messages. He's talking about OPSEC. He's talking about operational security on something which is not operationally secure.
Yes, and you're talking about plans that are in, the only person that acts professional is Jeffrey Goldberg, who removes himself. Everybody else,
And who does not, by the way, publish any of the details or the name of an undercover CIA
Look,
officer.
having worked with the 7th Fleet in Japan, having worked with the military throughout my career, from working as the President's Chief of Staff in Congress and leadership, these are men and women who had incredible training. You're putting them at risk. They're already taking a risk. Now what you're doing, the way you're conducting yourself, you're supposed to be the leaders. You're putting their lives at risk. They have been firing missiles, both at Israel and at our ships and our ally ships. This administration doesn't know who an ally is and doesn't know who an adversary is. And they better figure it out quick. Because the Brits who are out there, the Canadians who are out there, the Danes who are out there, the Dutch who are out there, they're working with us. That's who you respect. You don't call them a bunch of pathetic freeloaders, because the people that are freeloaders are the ones coordinating with Ayatollah Khomeini.
Manuel, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.